All right. For those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Forrest, and welcome to It's Go Time. Now, before we get going, I'm going to ask if all of you can not send me any text messages while I'm up here, because listen, when you're moving around and you're performing and you're presenting and doing all that, and all of a sudden you get hit with a text message, it's like hitting a wall, and it can really throw you off. So if you have anything like that, I ask that you please save that till the end. Also, if you could stay off of this raised up stage area, this way nobody blocks this big display behind me, and it gives me a little bit of room to move around, do the whole hosting thing, right? Now, you may notice that in your lower left there on your menu wheel, at the very top of that, you have a microphone icon, and it looks kind of like this. Now, when that icon is clear, that means that we can hear what's happening in your environment, right? But we've gone ahead and we turn that to red, and this means that you're muted. So if somebody comes into your space and says, hey, are you still on that thing? Feel free to answer them because we're not going to hear any of that, right? Likewise, if you have maybe a barking dog in the background, you're not going to face social ruin back at the campfire by becoming known as the avatar that suddenly started barking during its go time. Now, just because you're muted doesn't mean you can't express yourself. You are going to notice in your menu wheel that you have a pink cheek smiley face. And when you press on this, your emoji panel opens up in the air in front of you, and it gives you a wide variety of options with which to express yourself. So if I share something really deep and powerful and meaningful up here, and you feel it right here, and it starts to build up, you can just let it out, just let it flow, just like that. And maybe I've got some backup dancers backstage, right? And they come on out, and we present, it's Go Time the musical, and you're all very impressed by the production value. You can throw up the applause I live for, just like that. Take a moment, drink it all in, because it feels good. If I ask you guys a yes or a no question, you could say yes by smiling like this. You could say no by frowning like this. Likewise, if maybe I say something funny, right? You can show me you're laughing with the silly face emoji right here. And then there's this thing, right? This is by far the most distracting of all the emojis. And if you're not going to use this to ask a question, we're going to be taking questions and comments at the end of the event. But in the meantime, if you notice something's wrong, like for example, my voice gets all choppy all of a sudden, or maybe the moderators have had seen it, it's go time one too many times, and they decide to set the stage on fire. Don't laugh, it's actually happened, and you need to let me know about it. Like Michael Forrest, the stage is on fire. You just go like that, and that'll let me know. Now, if I see one of these go up, it might be somebody messing around, so I'll probably keep going. But if I see five of them go up at one time, I know there's a problem that I need to address, right? And the X in the middle will close the emoji panel, but it's a good idea to leave it open during events like this because it gives me feedback. It lets me know how I'm doing. But more importantly, it lets the people around you know what you're experiencing. So if the person next to you starts going like this, that means, they find something funny, right? You may not agree. You might be like, oh, that's not funny at all. I'm going to go stand over here. And you can totally do that because this is VR. Well, maybe not over here, because as we agreed, you wouldn't stay on the stage as part of our pact. That's our bond. That's our agreement between me and you, the audience. All right, so yeah, you got the idea. All right, now what's Go Time about? Go Time is an event for Oculus Go users, but all are welcome. So if you're on another device, feel free to hang out. You might pick up some useful tips and information that'll help the Go community in Altspace. There's a lot of Go users in Altspace, and more are still arriving every day, believe it or not. So yeah, so it's good to be able to help out your fellow Go users there. Now. Because, listen, being on a go in Altspace is not without its challenges, okay? And speaking of challenges, I've been in bed for about the past couple of years due to a medical condition. And so when my go was, on its way to arrive, I was super excited about it because for me, it meant like increased mobility, right? And when it arrived, like I've been reading about Altspace for a while, so this was my first stop. And the very first thing, come out of the load screen for the first time, and the very first thing I did was I looked up. And when I looked up like that, I couldn't believe it because the sky looked very real to me, a lot like what I remember. And so I was grateful for this. I was so grateful that I started volunteering for Altspace and I started moderating events. Now, the problem was that my battery on my Go wouldn't last long enough to make it through an entire event. So when I would lose my power, I'd have to charge up again, and then I'd come back into Altspace and I'd try to find the event host and explain, why I flaked out. So I got off to kind of a rocky start. But, I want to fix this. So I started asking questions like, what can I do to improve the performance on my device? And the questions that I got to these answers eventually led to this event. All right, and allowed me to share it with people, and to show them how to have a better experience on an Oculus Go in Altspace. All right, but when I was asking those questions, I heard some things. All right, I heard, for example, this laser pointer here. I was told that on an Oculus Go, I wouldn't be able to use that. You know what? That turned out to not be true. These slides behind me, I was told that I wouldn't be able to work these slides on Oculus Go, and you know what? That also turned out to not be true. And I was told that despite having a background presenting material like this in the real world, that my device wasn't reliable enough for me to host events. Now, not only did that not turn out to be true, but I ended up hosting over 300 events in Altspace, and more than half of those were done on an Oculus Go, and I like to think we've done a pretty good job with it. All right, so but that being said, there are some issues being on an Oculus Go in Altspace, and there's two routes you can take to fix this. One, you can start with the device you already have on your head, and the other is to upgrade your experience to exceed the limitations of your device. Right now, before you even leave here today, you're going to pick up some tips and stuff that's going to really change your experience in Altspace. And this whole term, limitations of your device, you're going to see this all over the Discord. You'll hear it around Altspace a lot. Sometimes you'll hear weaker device or inferior device. When you hear stuff like this, it doesn't feel good, and especially when you put out good money on this headset, and it could take a while to really understand that there's when people throw these terms around, it like I said, it doesn't feel awesome. But there's another term that gets thrown around Altspace an awful lot, and that's communities. There's a lot of rich and diverse communities represented in Altspace, and you have to remember that you're the important part of that equation, not what headset you happen to be on, right? So if you hear these terms going around, just remember that you're not your headset any more than you are your house or your car or anything like that. All right, let's get started with the device you already have on your head. Now, you may not realize this, but your device loses power even when it's not in use. So, let's say you put it down on the table at night, and by morning, it's going to have less of a charge. And the reason for this is because your device is, going out looking for app updates, it's looking for firmware updates. Maybe your device is a pen pal on the other side of the world. Maybe your device is a secret life you don't know anything about, right? And you are, it's very devastating to find out. It really is. But but you're going to have the best experience possible if you come into Altspace with 100% charge. And this is true actually for most apps. You're going to notice if you come into Altspace with, say, a 20% charge, that your screen is going to flicker a little bit. So you're going to want to charge your device about an hour before the event starts. So, like, let's say you're out in the real world and you look at altvr.com and you see, look, it's go time is coming up tonight. And I've heard good things about the host. I've heard he's got this hair and he's got this jacket that you're starting to see everywhere, right? Well, what you can do is about an hour before the event starts, plug in your device to make sure that you come in on a full charge. All right, so a little advanced planning will go a long way in having a better experience. Now, also, when you first put your device on your head and you first get to the Oculus home screen, the very first thing you should do, you should make this a habit, is that center button on the top of the headset where you turn the power on? Well, first thing you want to do is press and hold that button for about 4 seconds, all right, and don't let go. And when you do that, you're going to see 3 buttons appear in the air in front of you. All right, and the middle button is a restart button. And when you press that, your device is going to restart, and it's going to clear out all those temporary files from, like, you're looking for updates and, maybe that pen pal thing it was working on. And basically it's going to clear out all that. So I like to think of this as clearing your mind before you come in. And once you do this, you clear your mind, you enter the load screen. When you get into Altspace, you may have noticed what an important role body language plays in Altspace. Where you can say so much without saying anything at all. Like, say somebody's in this event and a moderator comes up to you and they start shaking their head slowly back and forth like this. That means don't do that thing, right? Maybe somebody makes it up on the stage. You see me going like this. Without me saying a word, that means get off my stage, right? But occasionally in Altspace, you're going to notice that your real world hand might be right here, but your avatar's hand may be way up here, right? And when this doesn't match, this is going to make your body language less convincing, right? So if I go to wave somebody off the stage and that's happening to me, what you guys are going to see is my hand going like this up here. It's going to look like I'm saying, hey, everybody, welcome to Go Time. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying get off my stage. It's a very dangerous place. All right. But if this happens to you, it's easy to fix. All right. You're on your controller. You're going to notice you have your trackpad, and below that you have a button, and below that you have a button, right? That very bottom button, don't press it now, because you have to think of it. If it disappears, I'm going to feel it. You got to think of this as an eject button. And when you press it, like if you press it by accident, you'll have a choice to quit or resume. If you press resume, it'll take you right back into Altspace like you never left, right? But this button does something else. If you stick your hand like straight out like this, and you kind of bend your elbow like that, right? And you press and hold that button, you're going to notice a white circle will spin in the air in front of you, and then your hand's going to snap into place, right? And then take a good look at your hand and ask yourself, is this where my hand is in the real world? Now, if it is, then you're good. And if it's not, just do this process again as many times as it takes to feel comfortable. And, and then you'll find out, because only you can determine what's comfortable for you. And once you have that, you're going to find that your body language is a lot more convincing. All right. And that can actually affect your communication in Altspace. All right. Now, also, you're going to notice every now and then you have your on your menu wheel there. That's down your lower left. Every so often, you're going to notice that this drifts around. Like, you're going to notice, like, sometimes it'll go in front of you, and that can make you feel a little off balance. Or worse, it can go right behind you where you won't even be able to see it at all, let alone reach it. Right. And when that happens and somebody says, open your main menu, and you're like, I don't see any menu here. What do I do? All right. When this happens, you have to remember that your main menu is in your hands at all times with an Oculus Go. Right. On your controller, you have your trackpad, and just below that, you have a button, and below that, you have a button. That middle button is actually your main menu button. And anytime you press it, your main menu is going to open up in front of you. Now, the benefit to this is if you're looking straight ahead when you do this, and you're looking straight ahead when you press it again and that menu closes, you're going to find that your menu wheel and your emoji wheel and your all your personal space bubble and your camera stuff. That's all going to be right there, right back where it belongs. So anytime you lose your menu, it's easy to get back just by looking forward and pressing that middle button one time, then pressing it again to close the menu, and you're going to find that you have, everything back where it belongs, right? Now, every now and then you're going to notice, actually, when I first started out in Altspace and I wasn't making it through entire events, somebody gave me like one of the first useful bits of information that I got, which they told me to turn down my brightness. And I didn't want to do it. I want to have the best graphic experience I could possibly have in Altspace. And to me, that meant having my brightness turned way up to like retina burning levels, right? I mean, it was painful, but my graphics, they were awesome. Or so I thought. What I ended up doing was I wanted my battery to last longer. So I started to try it out. When I first put on my headset, and you have the Oculus home screen, and the lower right, you have that settings button there. And then right in the middle, you have an area to control the brightness. And I turned off the auto brightness, and it lets you adjust it manually with this big blue bar. And every time I came into Altspace, I would turn that bar down a little bit more and a little bit more until finally the brightness was completely off. And when I came into Altspace, I couldn't believe what I saw. I went to this event that I would help moderate at, and in it's off to the side there, we had this tree where all the moderators would gather before the event would start and catch up and stuff. And you would I go over there, and as I'm walking up, I stop and I look up and I'm looking at that tree, and it looks so real. Right? The graphics had actually gotten better. So if you turn your brightness all the way down, what you're going to find is you're going to enjoy better graphics, you're going to enjoy better performance, and most importantly, your battery's going to last longer. All right, it's if you're coming from big jump like 75% brightness and you turn it all the way off, it may take you a few minutes to adjust, but it's absolutely worth doing that. All right, now also let's see, one of the reasons that Go users get, when I did this, I started lasting longer in events and all this, and it ended up being really positive. But around that time, I became aware of how some Go users get kind of a bad reputation, and the reason for this is the microphone on the Go is actually very sensitive. As the sound comes out of your ear straps, it gets picked up by the microphone and projected out into Altspace. Now, we don't know what we sound like when we're in Altspace, right? So, what happens is, you're not aware of, what the sound quality of your avatar when you're talking. And what can happen is when you're talking to like an avatar in a campfire, like I'm saying something to Saber here, right? And, somebody comes up to me on an Oculus Go, I'm able to hear my voice as it was in the past coming out of your avatar, right? And it creates kind of like a copying effect that makes you difficult to speak to. Fortunately, it's very easy to fix this. You're going to notice on your headset on the top left, you have two buttons. The leftmost button is the volume down button, and just next to that's the volume up button. And when you press either of these buttons, you're going to see these vertical bars appear in the air. Some will be solid and some will be clear. What you're going for is you want those 4 clear bars on the right side. This sets your volume to be 4 tick marks away from the maximum, right? And once you have it set to this level, you're going to find that the only, that people start being nicer to you right away because they're not hearing their voice reflected back. But this comes at a price. You're going to find that occasionally you're going to have to strain to hear people, right? And what you'll do is remember that you still have one hand in the real world, all right? And what you can do with that left hand is you can hold it up to your ear like this, kind of cup it to your ear. And if you try this now, take your left hand, put it up to the ear like that, you're going to find the sound of my voice actually goes up, right? And this is a way to temporarily increase the volume. And but one great way to fix this is to attach a pair of headphones to your headset, or maybe like in my case, I use a pair of inexpensive earbuds. That works too, works great. And once I did this, the only sound coming out of my avatar was my own. All right. Occasionally, you'll still hear a family member come in and ask, "Hey, are you still on that thing?" Right. If that happens, listen, get that family member a headset of their own. This way, you can bring them into VR with you, show you how great it is. It's really fantastic when you see somebody in VR and you can actually recognize their body language. It's really cool to do. All right, so let's see. Now, well, about the time that I added on these earbuds onto my device, I started wondering, what else could I, do to my device to make it perform better, right? And I came up with what I call a Go Plus experience. Now, in order to tell you guys about this, I have to discuss these products behind me. So before I do, I like to say that these are not the only products that work. If you find something else that works better for you, feel free to use that. Come back and tell us about it. We love hearing like success stories and different approaches that different people have taken. It's cool stuff. But the ones that are up here, are the ones that I personally use, so I feel comfortable recommending them. But you have to remember, it's the ideas behind these products that work, not the products themselves. All right. But if you want to try any of these, I know the temptation is going to be to write the stuff down. You don't have to. If you go to altsvr.com and you go to the upper left where it says channels, you'll notice when you click on that, you get a list of all these great Altspace event channels. And down toward the bottom, I'm told that doesn't mean anything, you're going to find Ravenhole events. And if you press on that, you get taken to our event, our event page where you can see all our events there. But on the left-hand side, you'll see all these products listed out there. If you want to try any of them, there's links right there. There's also a join Discord button down in the bottom left. If you want to press that, you get taken to our Discord, and you can ask us questions, say hello if you want to help us put on events like this. We're always welcome help and stuff. And if in the upper right, you're going to see the most important button on the internet, the subscribe button. And when you press this button, you get, it lets Altspace know that you enjoy our content. You got to remember, we don't get paid to do this. So every time we see that number go up, it makes us feel good. It keeps us going. Maybe not as good as when people subscribe to our YouTube channel. We love that. And if you're watching us on YouTube today, again, if anybody wants to feel Altspace famous and wave out to Raven Eye up there, because that's our YouTube camera, feel free to do that. Because we got some people in here. We got Saber, we got Mike T, we got Aiden in here. On in Altspace, I think you'll enjoy it. But if you want to try these products, you'll find the links in the description below if you're watching out on YouTube. All right, so that being said, what these products are, this top product here, we have the Anker Power Core Battery Pack. All right, and what that does is, this was, listen, Oculus tells us not to use their devices while they're plugged in, but they say we can use an external battery pack. So I figured this would solve, permanently my power issue, right? And about this time when I ordered it, I heard people were having problems charging their device. So I found this middle cable here, this MagSafe cable. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but when you plug your device in, it can be kind of tight, that wire, right? And all that wear and tear, if you're using it every day, can loosen the connection and make it charge not as effectively. But this cable is great because one tip stays in your headset, the other end goes into the battery, but it's held in place by a magnetic connector, which turns out is a great safety feature. Because what you'll notice is when you turn your head in VR, if that wire gets pulled, it'll just pop right off, right? And instead of pulling your headset down and having your world turn upside down, it'll just pop off, and you don't even have to come out of VR to fix it. You can just reach down and grab that cable and hold it up near your headset, and it'll kind of snap into place, right? And when it does, it'll make this thunk sound. If your microphone's open, people will hear that and be like, "What was that?" And you're gonna be like, "That's power. That's what that was. That was pure power." Right? Feel free to do that. You don't have to do that. It's not going to make it work any differently, but it's just something I find that was cool to do. All right, and this actually solved my power issue. All right, I started lasting a lot longer in Altspace, but I became aware of a new issue. I started overheating all the time. All right. And as I was, as this was happening, right, I found out that the Oculus Go headset on the faceplate on it is actually what controls the temperature cooling, and it's installed by hand. So people have different results with this. Some people overheat every half hour. Some people overheat every, 10 minutes. I knew a guy that overheated every 2 minutes. Right. And I had one guy that come in one of the first Go times we ever had, and he said that the side of his side of his headset actually got pushed in. Right. You're apparently thinking this is funny, Nathan. Right? It's hysterical. It's a good deal. Okay. All right. There you are. All right. Well, his side of his headset got pushed in, which I thought was kind of scary. I thought, we have to fix this. All right. So what happened was we found this this AC Infinity USB fan here. It's very small. It fits in the palm of your hand. We had heard that some people were actually using ice packs and bags of frozen peas to bring the temperature down. I don't recommend doing this because if you do that on your headset, you're going to get condensation, and water and electricity on your face is probably not a good idea, right? So what happens is we came up with this AC Infinity USB mini fan here. And this is a great approach. It absolutely works. What you do is, first of all, you have to figure out a way to attach it to your headset, right? So what we used was, elastic hairbands, right? Some people use string. I've heard some people had some luck with double-sided tape. I know somebody that used a magnet type thing, and that seemed to work for them. You might have to experiment a little to find out what works for you. But the important part is that the silver part is facing the faceplate. Right, and the very first time I used this thing, I came into Altspace, and if you ever seen Star Trek, you got the Borg. I felt like that with all the wires hanging down. You actually do get used to that. Right, so much for having a wireless experience, but it does work. And I went into Altspace, and I was set to moderate for the meditation event that day. I don't know if you guys have ever been there. It's a really cool space. At the very top of it, a mountain is. You have sunlight coming down through the fog, and you have all the smoke coming up from all these bowls. It's a really incredible space. But for some reason, I would always overheat 20 minutes into the experience every time. So I went in early, like the moderators often do, and I walk up to the host, and I asked Jeremy, he's a really nice guy, I asked him, can you hear my fan? And he says, no, not at all. And I was encouraged, so I turned it up to medium and said, how about now? And he said, well, it's a little bit, but it's not that bad. So then I turned it up to full blast, and he goes, before I could even ask, he goes, you're going to turn that down. You sound like you're in a wind tunnel, man. Knock it off. So what I did was I turned it all the way down, and spoiler alert, I never had to turn it up again. This is what happened. I went through the event, and 20 minutes came, and 20 minutes went, and I didn't overheat at all. So I wanted to see how far I could go, right? The event finished, and I hadn't overheated at all, and I was excited. So I went to another event, and I didn't overheat once. Right? So I went to another event, didn't overheat at all. That's 3 events in a row, and I didn't overheat at all. Right? So after that, I went to my home space. I hung out with some friends, right? And then it happened for the very first time. I left Altspace by choice, not because I had to. I didn't leave because I was overheated. I didn't leave because I'd run of power, right? I left because I actually wanted to, and it was the first time that ever happened, and it wouldn't be the last. After this, my device was so reliable that I started hosting events, I started monitoring events. I was everywhere, and you can be too. All you have to do is just make a few small changes to your device. It's nothing too extreme or expensive. You're going to find that this bottom product here, this USB Infinity fan, all right, this is this was about $10 or $11 US. This middle product here is about the MagSafe cable is about $7 US, and this top product here, the Anker Power Core battery pack, that's the most expensive thing up here. That's about $30 US. But you're going to find that it comes in different sizes. It even comes in different colors. So like maybe you're not going to be like this thing lasts about 16 hours. Maybe you're not going to need to be in VR that long. Maybe you're only going to come in a few hours in the evening, so you can get by with a less expensive battery, right? So you're going to mix and match and try to find out what works best for you. Now, though my device became super reliable at this point, there were still problems. All right. The first one I'm going to talk about, and most of these are annoyances, right? Most they can be managed. Like the first one I'm going to talk about is a movement issue. Like let's say I turn something and say, turn the mic T and say something, right? I go to turn left, but instead of turn left, I go straight. And I think, well, that's not what I meant to do at all. So I go to turn right to say something to Hummingbird about it, but instead of turning right, I go straight again. And I'm like, well, wait, that's unusual. So I press down on my controller to go backwards, but instead of going backwards, I go straight again. So I start mashing buttons, and no matter what I do, I keep going straight, even though I don't want to. And next thing you know, I'm standing inside of an admin. There is nothing more frightening and disturbing than standing inside of an admin. When I was in there, I saw things about the past. I saw things about the future, user accounting and development. It was horrible. I saw things that keep me up at night, right? And I can't even talk about it. What I can talk about is how to fix this, right? What you can do is all you need to do is your controller, the touchpad, it's sensitive to heat, moisture, and of course, touch. That's why it's a touchpad, right? And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to reset the connection if this happens to you. And the way to do this is super easy. All you have to do is take your thumb, right? And as you put your thumb down, right, do not push down on the buttons. Just very gently swipe your thumb from right to left or left to right. The direction doesn't matter all that much. And when you get to the other side, lift your thumb up off of it completely, cross over to the other side, and come down and swipe it across again. If you do this 2 or 3 times and then come down in the direction you want to go, you'll be moving in the ways that you want to. So like if, for example, I go to turn left, but go straight, you make it a reflex. You just go swipe, 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 and then try it again, and then you'll be able to go in the direction that you want to. Okay, so that'll take care of that if that happens. All right, now another thing that's going to happen every now and then when you put on your headset, you're going to get a message that says "can't find controller." Right now this could mean that you need to change the battery in your controller. That can happen, but you put a fresh battery in it last night, right? So maybe your headset maybe your controller found out about your headset's secret life and isn't happy about it, and they're no longer speaking. But either way, you're kind of stuck, right? What do you do? Well, you don't even have to take your headset off to fix this, right? All you have to do is remember 2 words: double down. And what I mean by this is the 2 buttons that are below your trackpad. If you press them down at the same time and hold them there for about 4 seconds, a little white light's going to appear on your trackpad. Now, if you're wearing your headset, you're not going to see this, but what you will see is when you lift your thumb back up, you're going to have your hand back, and you're going to go in that load screen. You're going to be like, man, I am glad I went to go time. And Michael Forrest, he knew what he was talking about. He told me to double down, and now I got to be on time for my event. All right, so you can do that, and if that helps you and you make it on time, well, you're welcome. All right, cool. Now, another thing that you're going to see every now and then in Altspace is that your screen is going to go dark. All right, and this isn't just for Oculus Go users. This happens to all mobile users. And the reason for this is because all the stuff you see in this room today, this stage here, we got this big red button over here that we use at the end of our events for a special effect I think you guys are going to really like. When you do that, all this stuff takes up memory. So like if after this event, you're out exploring worlds and stuff, and your memory fills up, you're going to see that screen go dark. And the good news is if your microphone is open, your friends will still be able to hear you, and all you have to say is, I'll be right back, and then just press that bottom eject button, right? And then just hit quit and then restart the app, and you'll be okay, right? The best way to manage this is to get ahead of it before it happens. So if you've just been out exploring worlds, and you've been to 3 different worlds in Altspace, and your friend asks you to go to the campfire, right? It's probably a good idea at this point to clear out your memory to prevent it from happening. So all you have to do is say, I'll catch up, press that bottom eject button, press quit, restart the app, and you're on your way back in to rejoin them. They'll barely notice you were gone. And that's a good way to manage that if that happens to you. All right. So let's see here. Now, at this point, I normally give, actually, I'm right on time. All right, cool. Let's see. I thought I was running a little bit later than I was. I used to moderate for an event called Building Worlds. And in that event, I would hear from a lot of Go users that they felt like they couldn't build worlds in Altspace. And this is a shame because this device is capable of remarkable precision. There's a lot of very talented world builders in Altspace that happen to have built those worlds on an Oculus Go. So where do people get this impression from? Well, when you first enable the world's beta program by going into your menu and going to settings up in general, and you enable it and you start building worlds in Altspace, you're going to notice when you grab your very first object, you're going to notice that object is going all over the place, right? And you're like, what's going on? It takes you a while to realize that it's your head that's actually controlling the movement, right? I don't know about you guys, but it's really difficult to keep a level head in any reality, let alone a virtual one, right? So, but what you can do is when you go into the world editor, you're going to find that there's a white box at the bottom that says lock rotation. And once you click this, it's going to change your building life forever. All you have to do at this point now is now when you go to edit an object, you squeeze and release your trigger one time on that object, right? And now you're going to be able to level it and put it in place by hand, right? And then what you can do is squeeze and release the trigger again, and that'll like let go of it. And you can take a look at it and be like, oh, that's perfectly level. And it makes a really good mustache. It's excellent. All right. And now also what you can do now is you can press and hold that trigger button. And when you do that, you can move the object up, down, left, and right. Also, you can, whoa, the laser went off. That's not cool. All right, hope I didn't damage the wall there. All right, but yeah, you can, when you're holding that trigger button, you can move the object all around like that, or you can carry it in place. Like let's say I come off the stage here, right, and let's place this right on the end here. Right now, if I were to be placing this in the real world, that would be on the ground right now. That's not very realistic. So what you want to do is when you with an Oculus Go, you don't have to get it perfect. You just have to get it close enough. And once it's close enough, you'll go into your world editor, and it'll be all these items listed on the left side of everything you've placed in the space. In this case, the laser pointer. And next to that will be a cogwheel. And when you press that cogwheel, a panel will open up with all these numbers. There'll be numbers for position. There'll be numbers for rotation, of the scale, of the size. And what you want to do is you want to experiment with these numbers, right? So let's say the position value for X is 20 on this laser pointer. What happens if I change it to 19? When I change it to 19, what you're going to find is it jumps over to here like that. So now I know every time I lower the number on the X, it's going to move in that direction toward the windows. That must mean if I increase it, it's going to move toward that wall over there where Hummingbird is standing, right? That must mean if I change the Z value, it's going to move toward the snack bar, back toward the screen here, right? And the Y is always going to be straight up and down. Now, what you do is if you keep playing with them like that, eventually you're going to not need to really experiment anymore, because when you place one item and then another item and then another item, before you know it, you'll have built a world that you can use to hang out with your friends or to host events in, right? And or share with your friends too. A lot of people do that too. And you'll find that, it just gets easier and easier the more you do it. Now, I know that panel that we type on, like when you're sending messages to your friends and stuff, that can be a little bit slow and stuff, but it's a lot like when you first start playing a video game. First time you play it, all you do is think about the controls, right? But in about a week, you're not thinking about the controls anymore. You're thinking about how to save the world. You're thinking about how to crush your enemies. That's a great way to spend a Wednesday, right? So it gets easier and easier the more you do it. Okay, so keep doing that, and I'm sure you guys are going to be, great world builders. As a matter of fact, when this event is over, we take everybody flying, teach everybody how to fly in Altspace. And if and when we do that, we do this at a place called the Ravenhall Flight Academy. And when we get there, keep in mind that world was built in less than 2 days on an Oculus Go, and to give you some idea of what you can do here. All right, now we will be taking your questions and your comments at this point if you have any. So you're going to notice that in your lower right, a raise hand button is going to appear as if by magic, because that's what magic looks like in VR. I'm going to give you a chance to press that button if you have any questions or comments and would like to get on the air, and I can feel like a radio host as I call your name. But while we're waiting for that to fill up, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can find us at __Uncanny Valley. I know that looks like one underscore, but it is actually two. Okay, I don't see anybody on the panel, which is cool. So what we're going to do is, if you have any questions or comments like that, you can join us at the Flight Academy if you'd like to learn how to fly. And to do that, we're going to press this button on the wall here. Now, when I press this, you're going to see a Ravenhall Talent hovercraft fly down the street. You'll be able to see it out the window, so direct your attention right there. And it'll go up over the trees there and land in the backyard. It's a cool effect. I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to go ahead and press this button right now, and here it'll come.
Ravenhall Talon aircraft en route to your position.
There it is. Now let's head on out back through this doorway here and go meet it as it arrives. But if you learned anything here today, please share it with those you come in contact with. So if, for example, somebody's saying they're overheating a lot, tell them about the fan, tell them about this event, tell them all that, how we keep it going and stuff. And that's how we by sharing that information, that's how we keep this stuff going. All right, let's see. The ship's arriving now, and again, you can fly these if you like at the academy. Give that a try.
Talon aircraft is now boarding outside for transport to the Ravenhall Flight Academy. Please exit the building and step into the blue light. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, great audience. I'll see you there.